Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we're talking about rapper and music producer Kanye West. Yeezy recently made a big return to Twitter this past week, after a pretty long hiatus for him. And Kanye has come back in style too, of course, tweeting up a storm about all kinds of things, including him even addressing some controversial topics. And he also announced the release dates of 2 new albums coming this year. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. No, that's not what the talk of the town was this weekend all over the internet. The tweet that really had everyone talking about Kanye again was this. It said, "I love the way Candace Owens thinks." Short and sweet, but there's a lot more to unpack here than you'd really think. You see, Candace Owens is an up-and-coming conservative commentator, one we actually covered here on the show last year. Last October, Candace was going by the name Red Pill Black here on YouTube, and she faced a lot of backlash at the time when people found out she used to be a radical leftist like a year ago. And she tried to start this ridiculous anti-bullying website that ended up just being used to dox people's names and addresses. Pretty fucked up. There was a bit more to that story too, and a lot of videos were made about Red Pill Black as well, and many were shared around everywhere, including Twitter. In fact, my own video was even tweeted by Richard Spencer, founder of the alt-right.com, who was then attacked by Candace Owens for tweeting my video about her. Red Pill Black even ended up blocking me on Twitter as well. It was a whole big shit show, but we're well past that now. And now, about 6 months later, Candace has really come up in big ways. She's been able to not only put her whole controversy behind her, she's also rebranded as simply Candace Owens, her name. And she's been making moves into bigger shows too, including first some stints on InfoWars with Alex Jones. And now, currently, Candy Girl is a regular on Fox News and other stations. She's even made guest appearances on Fox and Friends, a personal favorite of mine. Yes, Candace continues to rise up in conservative spheres on TV and with her booming Twitter account. And despite her troubled past, I have to admit, she's fighting on the right side now. And very often, she does a pretty damn good job at it too. Now, that mostly brings us up to date with the whole story, which brings us to now, in April 2018, where Candace is not only rubbing elbows with music moguls like Kanye West, but also, right before this, Owens was locking horns with Academy Award nominated Don Cheadle, the actor. Yeah, Kanye's tweet about Candy didn't just come out of nowhere this weekend. The night before Yeezy was supporting Candace on Twitter, she was arguing with Don Cheadle, a pretty smug Hollywood liberal, I have to admit. As much as I love the guy and his work, don't get me wrong, I can't wait for Avengers Infinity War this weekend, but this dude, Don Cheadle, he sure has his head up his ass politics-wise.
You know, I never really think of myself as being involved in politics, so to speak. You know, I'm a father. I'm passionate about future for my children, and I think that when I look at the landscape, President Obama
Gay!
Here's what Don tweeted about Candace the night before Kanye's tweet. Quote, "You're showing more emotion than they ever did. Wow, that incredibly presumptuous statement says so much. Much more about you, however, than it does about the people you attempted to wield it against. Do you ever think to yourself, okay, I'd like to have that one back?" Apparently Cheadle isn't happy with Candace. Let's see what he's responding to from her though. It's her tweet saying this: "Black Lives Matter protesters showed up at my UCLA event to protest. Here's a video clip of me smacking them down with the truth. They're a bunch of whiny toddlers pretending to be oppressed for attention." Well put. Sounds about right to me. Before we go further though, let's go ahead and look at the attached video, and then we'll come back to Cheadle and his response.
Obviously we have some black people that are just shouting in the back. We have some black people that are sitting in the front quietly, that are chanting USA and having a normal conversation. I love that, because what I say every single time, and you may have seen me on the news, is that what is happening right now in the black community, you're going to hear it in this room first, there is an ideological civil war happening. Black people that are focused on their past and shouting about slavery, and black people that are focused on their futures, okay?
Wow, sounds like Candace is still really speaking rapid fire out there. She sounds like she's on speed or coke or something. But, you know, I understand. Sometimes you gotta do that to keep a live audience's attention. And she does make a good point too. Right now there's a civil war in the black American communities. Pun intended. There's the left-wing liberal plantation side, where they choose to be these helpless, pathetic victims of unending racism, and that's the reason for all their problems ever. And then there's the right-wing blacks like Candace Owens, Anthony Brian Logan, and Tree of Logic here on YouTube. These conservative blacks refuse to play that shit. They're straight up, and they don't want anything to do with the leftists and their patronizing government handouts. And keep this division in mind too, please, because this is another part of the reason Kanye is supporting Candace now. He likes the way she thinks because she's an empowered, conservative, independent woman who makes her own way in life.
I can guarantee you what you're seeing happening is victim mentality versus victor mentality.
That's
and I promise
great,
you,
by the way.
the people here are going to win.
I love that.
Victim mentality is terrible, yes. Another well-put statement. Keep going, Candace. Go on.
Which, by the way, none of you guys lived through. Your grandparents didn't. It's embarrassing that you utilize their history. You utilize their history, and you come in here with more emotion than they ever had when they were living through it. More emotion than they ever had when they were living through it. It's embarrassing. You're not living through anything right now. You're overly privileged Americans.
Ain't that the truth? Overprivileged Americans who are wannabe victims. I also see them, especially the college ones, as wannabe activists too. They want to get political and save the world, but there's one big problem. Well, actually, there's no big problem, so they have to make shit up to be against and to protest for. There's no real terrible, heartbreaking racism out there anymore either, so they have to complain about white privilege and other nonsense. Sexism isn't nearly as big an issue anymore too, so they have to come up with crap like mansplaining. There's also no wars or anything worth protesting against anymore either. So they make shit up about protesting the war in Syria. I actually just saw a bunch of wannabe civil rights leaders protesting the war in Syria, like a week ago here in Los Angeles. And newsflash for you guys, there's been a civil war going on in Syria for 7 fucking years now. Read a goddamn newspaper. Bottom line here is this. Candace was right, and she is right. Wing. Modern millennial left-wing youngsters are so desperate to be victims and to find causes to fight for, they're basically just making them up. Now back to Don Cheadle's response to this, which was just a typical smug lefty attack. Thinking free and independently is frowned upon in their circles, so Don asked Candace if she ever wanted to take back something she said, which is silly because I think most public speakers, Cheadle included, we've all probably said something we wish we could take back at one point. But what Owens has said here still rings true, I think. The Democratic Party doesn't care about black people. They just want to keep them dependent on the left so they could keep getting their votes. And that's why they fear free thinkers like Candace Owens. And that's why a few after this Cheadle versus Owens Twitter spat, the next morning Kanye tweeted out support for Candace. It's because he too sees the writing on the wall here. Left-wing liberal plantation Democrats are brainwashed. They don't think for themselves. They're forced to go along with the mainstream liberal narratives. And if they don't, they get shamed and vilified like Candace Owens. Kanye could see that, and it looks like he too stands with the conservatives, the free thinkers, and the ones fighting for freedom of speech, freedom of thought, and the right to make one's own destiny. And this brings us back to the civil war currently happening in the politics and ideology of black people in America. As the conservative base there grows more and more each day, more and more people on the left and people like Kanye West, they're waking up to the radical, self-defeating liberal mindsets. And I truly believe many black people don't want to be perpetual victims anymore. And I hope more join Candace and Kanye and rally behind their cause. This support from Mr. West is a good big start too, but I hope it doesn't end here. I won't be happy until conservatives can have complete, global, entire, world, galactic domination, like the Empire in Star Wars. And the lefties, like Yoda or Obi-Wan Kenobi, they must be pushed out into the fringes into hiding, shamed and vilified, and people will think their old liberal logic was just a myth, much like the Jedi Order.
And no transmissions were made.
I just released my financials and people were amazed at how good they are. They're great. And I did something, I employ thousands of people.
And things haven't quite ended with this story on Twitter yet. As I write this video, Kanye continues to tweet follow-ups about this situation, including this gem saying, "Hi Thought Police, you fucked with the wrong thinker. Nice." This is probably addressing the backlash Kanye received after making his pro-Candace, pro-conservative tweet. Free thinking, especially of the conservative kind, is highly frowned upon in the black community and in Hollywood and the music industry, which are all expected to vote Democrat no matter what, always and forever. And anyone who even hints at stepping out of line gets the whip. They get mouth whipped from other communists. Liberals. Luckily, Kanye West is bigger than Jesus at this point, and backlash will never really affect him anymore. In fact, he's doing a lot to sway things in the right direction now. Before this tweet, most people still didn't know who Candace Owens was. And now Yeezy has his 24 million followers looking her up. Next, Mr. West tweeted this: "Constantly bringing up the past keeps you stuck there. No doubt referencing the left's constant whining about racism, Jim Crow, and slavery. Problems from dozens, if not hundreds of years ago. And like Candace Owens said before, modern people did not live through that oppression, despite how much they appear to have wanted to live through it." And finally, Kanye addressed the slavery issue head on in a tweet that read as follows: "There was a time when slavery was the trend, and apparently that time is still upon us. But now it's a mentality." This, of course, again references the Democrat plantation system. Once the left lost the Civil War, they couldn't have slaves anymore, so they set up not only the Jim Crow laws to keep the blacks from voting and having equal rights. No, the Democrats didn't end there. The Democrats also started the Ku Klux Klan at the time to threaten and intimidate black people into doing what they wanted, usually stopping them from voting or moving into white neighborhoods, or even stopping them from sleeping with white women. That's right, the KKK was the left's anti-black hit squad. Then if we flash forward to the 1960s, time travel there, do a little Marty McFly, and that's about when the left decided to change their approach by getting the black community addicted to government support and welfare. And this is a system that's called the New Democrat Plantation, because it keeps these people dependent on the government for support and their livelihood. And the victim mentality they have is part of the puzzle here too, because it keeps the blacks thinking they're victims, so they also think they're owed something from the government and from white people, which makes them play into this whole thing even more. It's a sick, defeatist, infantilizing system the left has going on right now, and I'm certainly glad to hear more woke celebrities like Kanye calling it out. In the end, I think it may be time to finally forgive Candace Owens. She's come a long way since being Red Pill Black here on YouTube, and while I'll never forget her gay little cringy doxing website, I can also say now it may be time to let bygones be bygones, especially in light of Candace's strong, independent, pro-American, and starkly conservative stances. Between that and helping wake up people like Kanye West, and she put the smug liberal Don Cheadle in his place. With all that said, I can easily say Candace Owens has won her way back into my good graces, and it's been really fun seeing a woke Kanye West on Twitter again. I think Yeezy might just be our guy now, which is pretty fucking cool. A lot of his music influenced me too over the years, and I know I've heard Candace Owens say that recently on Twitter as well. So it's great to see an artist like Kanye, an artist we like, be able to also live up to our real world scrutiny and expectations. And I say, it may be time to be thinking about conservative Kanye West for president in 2024. I can see it now, actually. His running mate will be Kid Cudi, and their platform will be legalizing marijuana nationally, and more porn star wives for everyone. They already got my vote. What do you guys think? What does Kanye West's support of the conservative-based black woman Candace Owens mean to you? And will more celebrities come out for right-wingers and our causes in the future? And what side do you think will win the ideological civil war among black Americans? The wannabe victims on the left, or the strong, independent, right-wing conservatives? Comment your thoughts on everything below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. See y'all next time.